can do that fourth game, and what does he need to do to switch things up?
A lot depends on Nihal's strategy as well. Here we see him, eyes closed, meditating, maybe trying to visualize how he can claw his way back into this match. But if he goes all out with the black pieces, Magnus will get his chance. It's very difficult there. If we see Nihal maybe try to shore up his defenses, lock this game down, escape with a draw, this is in the final game with white, then we might see Magnus try to just minimize the risk. And there already the first face from Magnus, as we see the first surprise as well.
You know, Magnus loves a challenge. We saw that with that smile on his face when Nihal declined the repetition. I think he'd want a game on. He's not going to just give Nihal that shutdown opportunity, because that definitely, like you said, David, has to be Nihal's strat here, right? You try to just play it safe with black, get that draw in, final game, go all out. All guns blazing on Magnus with white. I think Magnus will play to try to wrap this up in 3. That's his style.
I've revised my what am I looking out for in the middle game. Previously I said, okay, it's all about whether or not Nihal Sarin can get that clock advantage on Magnus Carlsen. I'm gonna change that based on what we saw in the last game. I'm going to say it depends on what both players do with their first deep think. Because if we could see an amazing advantage, or maybe a really, really cool complex continuation that puts Magnus in the tank, then that deep think would have been for naught. So I want to understand when Nihal is choosing his moments to use that time, and whether he can do that effectively here against Magnus. He's going to need to do that if he wants to win this game.
100%. You'll need to invest that time wisely, need to not fall behind on the clock. Good start to this game by Nihal. He's 1 minute up already.
Yeah.
Quick surprise here in the Queen's Gambit declined. We saw a trade of pawns. Magnus is the king of this pawn structure. He normally prefers it though from the black side. We call this the Carlsbad pawn structure, with things locked, at least short term. No real pawn breaks in the middle of the board. And Black's light square bishop coming out. Good news for Nihal. Looks like a very healthy, stable position to build from.
That's one of the aims if you're playing black in this Queen's Gambit declined Carlsbad structure, right? You want your bishop on the light squares, but Magnus with his last move is potentially hinting at a g4 to develop, to fianchetto his own bishop and get aggressive. That could be the other way to get the pieces out. Instead, he targets the bishop with a knight and wins it. That is the first imbalance of the game.
First, maybe of many, but for now, Nihal has to decide how to develop its pieces. We see bishop for knight trade. Black has double pawns. That comes with pros and cons. Black's pawns on the g file mean that the h file and the rook there is open. So both sides probably reluctant to castle on that flank until the decision is made by the opponent here.
Yeah, it feels like who's going to blink first. Actually, this is the best moment for the first castle graphic as far as I'm concerned. I'm looking here going, who's going to blink first in this position? Can you go king side? Well, actually, opposite side castling and launching a big attack is possible if you miscalculate this.
Let's predict which way is the black king going. It's Nihal Sarin's move right now. therefore to show on our analysis board, bishop takes pawn, taking advantage of the fact that pawn has moved forward, and the pawn recapturing would allow the white rooks into the game. This looks over. The black queen is hit. She's going to move forward with a check, but when the white king steps out of the way, the black king is left to its own devices. I don't really see any way to stem the tide here. We're going to see this play out on the board. There's a huge threat of rook takes pawn, and the black king might just be doomed. Let's go. This is going to show us what's about to happen. Checkmate incoming, potentially.
And he does fall back in that final position with his knight to defend it. Magnus on the attack. If he wins this, Nihal Sarin will be eliminated. His key will get crushed. The queen about to come into the attack. B3, B6, A7. That's game over. B7 checkmate. Thank you very much. I'm going to the semi-finals is what Magnus is saying.
Look at Nihal Sarin. You can see the realization on his face suddenly. It's just knockout within a few moves. The only way to postpone this is to throw pieces away. You have to move the black knight out of the way to bring the rooks across, but the black knight is trapped. Nihal Sarin, he looks devastated. This is his final moments in the Esports World Cup here in Riyadh.
It's the final few moves of it, and you can see it on him. You look at Nihal, and that's all you need to know about the position. Queen b3, a square that he cannot fight for, a square that he can't stop, and that would be checkmate. Incoming. Nihal Sarin knows it's time to say goodbye to Riyadh.
He's coming to terms with his position now. Magnus still cool as a cucumber. He was looking a little bit more intense before making that move, and that's because he was busy calculating out, making sure that there's absolutely no rescue. Nihal Sarin looking positively emotional now. The realization of what's happening is hitting him. Unfortunately, his life in the tournament is on the line, and there's nothing he can do now to stop this inevitable victory by the world number one.
This is heartbreaking. It's a quiet move, ultimately, that he missed at the end of that variation. It was 3-4 move calculation to get to here, but he didn't realize that just pushing the rook forward would end in this devastating checkmate. He might be resigning any moment now, Nihal Sarin, as the white queen coming forward. We'll draw the arrows again to show what's about to happen. This will end the game. The black queen cannot bring herself over to that flank in time. She's cut off from the action.
And it all came down to that one pawn move. And Magnus Carlsen, it barely took any time for him. Nihal about to resign, and there it goes. Magnus Carlsen makes it to the semi-finals.
Magnus Carlsen makes it to 2.5 points, and with 4 points on, he crosses the threshold needed to advance to the semi-finals here at the Esports World Cup. A tense draw in game number 1, followed by 2 decisive victories. Well fought by Nihal Sarin, but it's world number 1, Magnus Carlsen, who advances.
A match in 3 for the world number 1.